can change. Many people are saying that we're going to have a brokered convention. What do you think? Call me and let's unlock these phone lines so that we can hear from you at 773-763 WCPT, 773-763-9278. Let's talk about it today, because in the first hour we are going to talk about something that is of great concern, Uh, it has been estimated that we are going to have a record turnout in 2020. It is estimated that we will have more than 66%, more than two-thirds of those who are registered to vote. So what will that mean? Well, Michigan officials first sounded the alarm, and now you're hearing state officials all over the country. They are worried that the systems in their states cannot handle a high voter turnout. What do you think about that? You want people to vote, at least that's what you say, and then when they do vote, guess what? The system can't handle it. So we're going to talk with David Daly, the author of Unrigged, How Americans Are Taking Back Our Democracy, Taking Back Democracy. We need to know what can be done now. Can anything be done? Yes, something can be done. Something should be done. And we've got to figure out what will be done and how we can make that happen, so that your vote, when you go to the polls, you won't have to wait, what, how many hours? Hours and hours. And you know what, Cortez, I need you to plug this in here. Okay, thanks so much. And so hours and hours and hours and hours just to vote. That's what's happening. That's what's happening in so many, many places all around the country. And so let's talk about that. And then we're going to talk about what's really happening in South Carolina. Everybody knows that the spine of the Democratic Party, the black vote, you cannot win the nomination, you cannot win the presidency without it. So that's why South Carolina becomes so crucial for all of the candidates. All of the candidates are there, and all of them are spending massive amounts of money, if not time, if not both, there trying to secure the black vote, trying to throw that signal. You know, Lady B, when you win that first primary, that says a whole lot, right?
Yes.
So that's what they're doing. And what we're not hearing, we keep hearing about Vice President Biden being this dominant candidate. And no question, he's got the vice presidency behind him and his time with President Obama. But does he have a lock on the black vote? I'm not so sure.
Right.
You know, in fact, there's a New York Times article that says, you know, look, several articles say, you know, he might have a lock on older black voters, 50 and up, 50 and above, but the kids, no. In fact, this New York Times headline says, is he your king? Ouch. Okay, so what's going on there? What's going on, and how is Bernie Sanders doing in South Carolina? Quite well. But according to Kevin Gray, who'll be with us in just a minute, the former president of the ACLU in South Carolina, according to Kevin Gray, guess what? They are going to, Steyer's number 2. He's spending a lot of money with black vendors. He's spending a lot of time with black vendors. That is people who, black media, the infrastructure of campaigns. There's a lot of money that's made in campaigns, everybody. A lot of money that can be made through your party. When you see all the tchotchkes at events, hats, T-shirts, cups, blah, 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 that's money that is a contract that the party has given to a business, and they are making money. So that's the business of campaigning, the business of political consultants, all of that. That's how you make money, right? And so the question becomes, who's getting that money? Unlike almost any candidate, Steyer's putting his money in black businesses, and it's beginning to pay off. So we're going to talk about that, but just really what the issue should be for everybody. Because, you know, when you get into these towns and hamlets and into our private spaces in urban America, a lot of people are voting a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons. That's why I've not painted Trump voters into this corner, nor will I do that with Democratic voters, because we're all a mix of a lot. And we bring a lot of different life experiences to the reasons why we vote for a candidate. It's not just one thing. I'm not saying that racism does not drive some of these people to vote a particular way, but that's not the only reason. And don't act like there's not racism in all the parties. Get out. So let's talk about that. Got a lot. But first, can the American? Let's open up these phone lines. Let's unlock them. Let's find out. It looks like they're locked over here. Okay, let's find out um, what you think about this voter surge. What do you think? I mean, maybe 180 million Americans will vote, and the system is not prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
System is not prepared for it. Lady B, how you doing today?
I'm good.
And you're going to be on the air on WCPT this weekend, I understand.
Yes, I'm covering Ricky Handon.
Fantastic. So what are you going to be talking about? And when is his show? And how can we see you, hear you, see you?
Well, he's on every Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. At right after Decay, and we're going to talk about everything: the trial, Trump, you know.
Wonderful. So, I know you're going to be fantastic.
Thank you.
You got a pile of stories, huh?
Yes. It is a lot to talk about.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. Yeah. There's a lot, and I know you're going to be fantastic. Everybody, check out Lady B on WCPT from 4 to 6 on this Saturday. On tomorrow, it's going to be fantastic. And then, of course, I'll be on Keep Hope Alive on Sunday morning. What will we be talking about? I'll have to clear that with Reverend Jackson, but doubtless it will be something about these campaigns or food stamps and Medicare and Medicaid, and there's just so much to talk about. So much. But you know what? Let's get some of these headlines out of the way before we get David Daley up. We got to get him up as soon as we can because he's got to catch a plane this morning. Oh, wow. The impeachment trial. Did you see that Senator Elizabeth Warren put Justice Roberts in a very awkward position, everybody, with a question of Supreme Court legitimacy? She wrote to him the questions that they're supposed to read at a time when large majorities of Americans, Senator Warren writes, at a time when large majorities of Americans have lost faith in government, does the fact that the Chief Justice is presiding over an impeachment trial in which Republican senators have thus far refused to allow witnesses or evidence contribute to the loss of legitimacy of the Chief Justice, the Supreme Court, and the Constitution? And he had to read that out loud, everybody. Ouch. Ouch. And, you know, President Trump is campaigning, and in his Iowa campaign rally, he was railing against deranged foes. Deranged foes. Well, he's stirring up a lot of anger and a lot of negative feelings. How is that going to play out, everybody? He talked about the norm, but, you know, many Democrats are very worried that as the trial is coming to a close, it looks like there will be no witnesses. That's what it's looking like. And so Democrats are saying that this will be the normalization of lawlessness. What do you think about that? Because we were kind of hoping that you're going to have some Republicans break this way. That is to say, you were hoping that some of them, Lady B, would say, you know what, we need to have some witnesses. We need to hear from John Bolton. We need to hear from some, particularly since he was in the room when this stuff happened. Well, it turned out that Senator Lamar Alexander, a Republican from Tennessee, announced last night that he would not support additional witnesses. And President Trump's, quote, shallow, hurried, and wholly partisan Senate impeachment trial, close quote. That's how he put it. So I wonder how people are going to feel about these senators when the history is written. When the history is written. I wonder. Well, it seems that they are racing toward a Trump acquittal as the hopes fade for witnesses. Wow. It's a sad day, everybody. It really, really is. Britain is leaving the European Union today. Brexit is going to take place. What is that going to mean? Now more and more Brits are applying for passports from different countries. That's right. So this is a cataclysmic event. It's going to have enormous economic, social, and cultural and political consequences. But we'll have to wait to see how that happens. They formally leave the EU, and tonight, according to this CNN report, Prime Minister Boris Johnson will address the nation in what can be presumed to be an optimistic message. Other Brexiteers will be celebrating in grander style as parties are being held across the country, including one opposite the Houses of Parliament, the body that thwarted Brexit so many times in 2019. So we'll see. They say what changes? Well, according to the CNN report, the UK might be leaving the EU, but as of 11:01 p.m., They will continue to obey all EU law and European courts. In the coming months, it will continue to pay into the EU budget and comply with any changes in the European Union law. That means that the only things that will change are largely symbolic. The UK will cease to have any meaningful representation in EU institutions and will no longer attend any meetings of EU leaders. So it will be obeying EU rules while having no say in EU policy. I wonder how is that going to work. In the meantime, Amazon has become a $1 trillion company. $1 trillion now. They delivered their final quarterly earnings for the 2019 fiscal year, and the company's market cap is now above $1 trillion. $1 trillion. And yet their workers are struggling. We'll see how that all works out, everybody. We will see. You know, everyone's talking about beautiful little Greta, right? Thunberg, the great climate change activist. Well, there was in Davos a picture of climate activists, young climate activists, but there was a young woman by the name of Vanessa Nakate from Uganda who was cropped out. She was the only black girl in the photo, and they cropped her out. So she said, now it's time to stop erasing African voices in this struggle. I agree with her. What do you think?
I agree.
Because she was on the end. She was already on the end. They pulled her out. Oh my goodness, President Trump is preparing to roll back restrictions on U.S. military use of landmines. Now, you know that's going to hurt our troops, right?
Yep.
Okay, I was just trying to be clear on that. New polling shows, interestingly enough, for the first time ever, a majority of Americans they want to decriminalize sex work. Isn't that interesting? Well, so you're going to drink on that part. Okay, I got you. I'm just saying. Wilbur Ross, oh boy, our Commerce Secretary he's very interesting. He said that the coronavirus outbreak is going to boost the U.S. economy. That's an interesting. Don't you think that's interesting? This will be a boost. It's killing people, everybody. A Chicago woman has infected her husband with the coronavirus. And so the United States has issued a travel warning. In fact, they're telling citizens not to travel to China. And the World Health Organization has declared the coronavirus a global health emergency. And they said, we want facts, not fear. But this is in 18 countries. So this is a global health crisis. Wow. The narrow majority in the meantime are favoring Medicare for all. I think there's a tie between the coronavirus spread and Medicare for all. What do you think? More than 6,000 people are being held on a ship. That's right.
Yeah.
In an Italian port. They're like, no, we're not letting you in. We don't know what you got. You know, you can't make this stuff up, but you need to find out what's going on. Tonight, the Bulls will be playing the Brooklyn Nets. The Blackhawks will be playing the Coyotes. And the Dow was up almost 125 points yesterday. And the S&P up 10 points. The NASDAQ up 23 points. And snow showers, 31 degrees. All right, everybody, let us talk about this voter surge that is expected in the United States. Everybody's excited. Everybody's excited about the vote. Everybody's excited about the vote. And none more than our voters. But guess what? It seems that the American voting system is not prepared to handle all the voters. That's curious. Dave Daly, the author of Rat Blanked, he's going to be in Chicago very, very soon. We can't wait to have him in studio and to go to his book signing for his new book, Unrigged, How Americans Are Fighting to Take Back Democracy. Dave Daly, talk to us. Wait a minute. Good.
There are estimates that there could be as many as 180 million Americans coming out to vote in these upcoming presidential elections. The system has never seen a number like that, and frankly, it could overwhelm it. There could be a massive system failure, and I think what we have to keep in mind is that some of that system failure is built in. Some of it is intentional. Some of it is designed to keep people from casting ballots. It's one extra barrier that people are going to have to go through. When there are long lines at a precinct, when you show up and maybe your name isn't there, there's politics behind that, and that politics is going on right now. 16 million Americans were wiped from the voting rolls between 2014 and 2016. Another 16 million Americans were wiped from the voting rolls between 2016 and 2018. More than 2,000 polling places have been closed around the country over the last several years. This has been focused in black neighborhoods and neighborhoods of color. If you live in Georgia, for example, and you are African American, there is upwards of a 30% chance that you have to travel at least halfway across your precinct in order to actually get to the polling place. If you're white, it's a lot easier. So there's a lot of things going on that put little barriers up. If you haven't voted in a while and you think you're going to go out in November and be part of these 180 million Americans, you better check your registration. You better be certain you are still there, that you haven't been purged.
Everybody call 1-866. Everybody, make sure you call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, so that you can find out right now, if you are still registered to vote. A lot of people are finding out as we go to break that they've been purged from the rolls. It happened on our Keep Hope Alive show. Dave Daly, the author of Unrigged, How Americans Are Fighting to Take Back Democracy. Two of our, Trevor Gervais, who comes on this show, Jeremy Geiger, who is my technical producer and board op, they just said, they keep talking about this vote, people are getting purged. They checked during a show and found out they've been purged. You check 1-866-OUR-VOTE, talking with Dave Daly, and we're over on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Hello, Morning Stars. And so like and subscribe, like and share over there, and like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show over on YouTube. Over on YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show. Come on over there so we can have some conversation. I think you're going to enjoy this. What about the vote? What about the vote? What about the vote? Well, Americans are going to vote. But can the system handle it? Can it handle it? Well, and no. And as Dave Daly says, the system has been constructed that way. It's baked in the cake, everybody, but we can work it out. Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820. Back in a minute.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
The northbound
I'm
tri-state
glad
is
you
Real
said it was
Madison, Lake
yours.
Forest,
I'm like,
and Libertyville this morning after a major wreck at
No,
176.
it was
Right
somebody
lanes
hit the
remain
block
blocked.
thing on
Crash
yours.
cleanup
The true story of the secret plan to steal our democracy. The night that Barack Obama was elected president,
the IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your wages,
these
even take your property.
three of the top operatives in the Republican Party got together and they plotted a scheme to
work on your behalf to immediately
take control of the rest of America, to lock up the state legislatures, which is where you control the
Inline
congressional
tax can help
districts,
you establish an affordable
to control
payment plan. And depending on
Congress.
your situation,
And it
we can
worked.
even reduce or completely
It works. I
eliminate
can't
your
believe that
unpaid
we
tax
got
burden.
caught flat-footed
For
like
good.
this.
You can't run or hide
But
from the IRS forever.
I think
Let us
our
help
eyes
you
were just
like
off
we've
that
helped
ball.
thousands of others in your situation.
Oh my gosh.
You get the
And
same high quality coverage
to
and
resolve,
hands-on
absolutely.
expertise
Just
from a
remind
local
me
Allstate
so I can
agent.
remind people.
Now
Okay.
with new lower rates. You're in good
Therese,
hands
good
with
morning. Hey,
Allstate.
sweetie.
If you haven't
And
voted Allstate lately,
and of course,
it's
now
the
here, I
perfect
told
time.
you,
10
Chappelle
seconds.
Chappelle has gotten
Subject to
started.
terms
These
and
Republicans are
conditions and
cowards.
availability. Savings vary.
This is
I
WCPT
love that girl.
820,
I love all
where
the folks
facts
over here.
matter.
Hey, hey. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Please meet me over on YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show. Like and subscribe, and meet me over here on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Like and share, everybody. Paula, everybody, yo, 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 Paula. That's how she said hello to everybody this morning. Yo, 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 Paula. Like and share over here. Please, over on Facebook. We love her. Love her and love everybody. Therese and Chapearl and Vicky. Where's Lorraine this morning? That's right. And where's my Aloha Tony, Melissa? All my folks. You know, look, we know everybody by name. We're family over here. There's Lorraine. There she is. There she is. There she is. Okay, okay. I'm just looking. I'm looking. And Diane Carroll and and Shirley from where? Philadelphia. There we go. You have to give shout outs, Dave Daly, to all of our wonderful morning stars, and I'm going to get some more on the other side of the break. Dave Daly, he's been a member of the family here on the on Santita Jackson Show, and of course I had to corral him. You know, I first heard him on NPR. They couldn't, of course, the unpronounceable name of his book, Rat Effed. The true story of this thing, but you got to read the book. It reads like it reads like a mystery, but it reads it, and this is too fantastical to be true that people are actually plotting to stop Americans from voting. People actually plotting to keep to block our votes from counting. But it's not. This is not something this is not in our minds. This is actually happening. And so when Michigan is saying, look, we could have what they called a national embarrassment, Dave Daly. They said this could become a national embarrassment because the night of the election, between absentee ballots and not having enough polling places, not having enough machines, it might take us days to report our results. And people could be waiting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to vote. Oh no, when you go vote, you better carry some food with you. I tell you that.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to certain polling precincts, right? The decision to send how many machines to what neighborhoods, that's a political decision, and it's made by people, and it's often made by people who are intentionally trying to create lines in certain neighborhoods while making it easier to vote in other neighborhoods. That's not a conspiracy. That's simply how politics works in this country. You were talking about how the consulting class works earlier. This is what people do when you are trying to make sure that, in very close elections that your side has an advantage. Now, what's happening in Michigan is another great example of this, because the voters in Michigan went to the polls in November of 2018. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, all of them alike, upwards of 60% of the state said, we want to expand and modernize and make voting easier in our state. And so they introduced a constitutional amendment, and they got behind it, and everybody adopted this no excuse absentee voting. It makes perfect sense. You shouldn't have to offer up an excuse or tell people why you want an absentee ballot if you want one. So it makes it possible now for anyone to vote early and to avoid all of those lines, right? It's a way around that problem. The trouble is the legislature there is not modernizing along with the people. There is an old law in Michigan that says you can't start counting ballots like those absentee ballots until after all the polls have closed. So if you expand absentee balloting but can't actually count those ballots until 8 o'clock at night on election day, you aren't going to have the results in. You are going to cause a massive problem, and people aren't going to know what happened in a state that was crucial to the presidency. I mean, Michigan was decided by about 20,000 votes in 2016. It's one of the hot buttons. Can you imagine if we're all sitting around for days waiting for them to count absentee ballots in Michigan? It doesn't have to be this way. Just about every other state that allows for early no-excuse absentee balloting allows clerks to begin opening, preparing, and tabulating the results early. All that the legislature has to do in Michigan is pass a simple law and get up to date with the wishes of the people. They're refusing to do it. The time has come for them to do it.
Everybody, call me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278, and let's talk about it. We could have an election of tremendous consequence. All elections are. But what will be different about the 2020 election is that it is expected, if current trends continue, and the scientists who measure this, we had the University of Florida professor. We're going to have him on this show. I had him on Reverend Jackson's nationally syndicated radio show last week. Michael McDonald, Dr. Michael McDonald, not the Michael McDonald we love from the Doobie Brothers, but Michael McDonald, a political scientist. And he has predicted the voter turnouts accurately now for several cycles. He's the best at it. And he estimates, along with other people who are in that space, that 66+% of Americans, at least, will be voting. Because we broke records in 2018. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, let's stick with the Doobie Brothers. Only a fool believes that the president and the Republicans are not going to start talking about voter fraud if they lose this election.
No, do that one more time. Wait. Stop that. Do that minute by minute. Come on, do that one more time. Give it to me.
And do that to me one more time as the captain in Tennille, not the Doobie Brothers. What you are going to see if Donald Trump and the Republicans lose this election is a massive outcry of voter fraud. And that's what they're going to be talking about. They suggested that there was voter fraud in 2016 that kept Donald Trump from winning the popular vote. They set up a commission, a fraudulent voter fraud commission, to study this, and they claim that the Democrats were busing voters up from New Hampshire to Massachusetts. It was lies. It was not true, all of it. So this is what's going to happen again in 2020, especially if Donald Trump is on the losing side of this election. Now imagine if we don't have the results from a crucial state because people are still counting ballots. You go back to 2000 and think about, the 500 votes that gave George W. Bush the presidency over Al Gore. And that's the kind of situation we are heading for, not knowing for days contesting every single one of these absentee ballots, wondering which ones are true or which ones are false. Fox News covering it one way, CNN and MSNBC the other way. This is a prescription for a massive election meltdown if we don't have accurate results that people believe in the night of the election.
You know, I could keep you here forever. I know forever. I've got to. I know that you've got to catch a plane, so I want to get as much information from you as I can. What can we do now as an informed electorate, or as an electorate who are citizens who are trying to be informed, and what can our state legislatures do? Because we do not have the federally protected right to vote. It's not in the Constitution. Because of that, the states control the elections. You vote state by state, and it's uneven. It's just uneven. They're not singing from the same sheet of music. So we don't know from state to state what's going to happen, which is why the Stacey Abrams election, I would say, Dave Daley, the author of Unrigged, How Americans Are Battling to Take Our Democracy. You know, this is what she set out to register all Georgians to vote. Mm-hmm. And then you had a Secretary of State who she ended up running against, who purged those voters. I mean, and she, yeah, I mean, and she had no way to fight that, to work that out. I mean, talk to me. How do we make that? What can we push a state legislature to do right now?
Well, I mean, let's start with the Secretary of State's office. We elect Secretaries of State. They make the rules about elections. That office matters an awful lot. That office is in charge of purging voter rolls. That office is in charge of deciding how many precincts stay open in most cases. It's in charge of deciding how many machines go where. So if we're only thinking about 2020 presidential race right now, and not about all the secretaries of state that are going to be elected nationwide that are going to essentially run all of our elections over the next 4 and 8 years, well, we've got to be looking down ballot and thinking about all of these races. We have to be thinking about our state legislatures. We have to vote all the way down the ballot to these local races because they are so important in preserving our right to vote and in making sure that majorities rule. Because right now in this country, it's simply not the case. Gerrymandered legislatures across the nation, there are 59 million Americans right now living in a state that has one or both of the state legislatures under the control of the party that got fewer votes in the 2018 election. And that includes Michigan, it includes Ohio, it includes Pennsylvania, North Carolina, your listeners in Wisconsin. There's a lot of us that are living under minority rule, and those folks who are in charge of these state legislatures, even though they've won fewer votes, are in charge of the election rules that then make it easier for them to suppress votes and stay in power regardless of the wishes of the people. We've got to be aware of this, fight back, and fight back at all levels of the ballot.
Before you go, your closing thought.
I don't want to dissuade anybody from voting. This is not to make anybody paranoid or nervous. This is to say this is really, really important. So get out there and check your registration. Make sure that you are registered, and then get out there and be sure that your voice is heard. Because there are a lot of people who would like to put barriers in front of that voice being heard. It is your responsibility to overwhelm those barriers and get out and vote.
God bless you, Dave Daley, the author of Unrigged. Everybody, get the book. We want this to be a bestseller. And get rat-effed. Yes, I can't say it on the radio. I can't. I can't. I mean,
in this country, but we still can't say rat-effed on the radio. I know.
Wow. How about that? I wish you all could have heard him just say, but it's true. I mean, because you talk about being rat-effed. That's happening to us left, right, and left, and yet that's the yeah. I mean, and that's the vulgarism, right? I mean, how crazy is that, Dave? I mean, it's your book, the title of your book, and this is he didn't come up with the phrase. Give just before you go very quickly. What is the where did the phrase come from? What does it mean? What is it?
Essentially, we're talking a lot about music this morning, right? So essentially, it is a dirty deed done dirt cheap, as AC/DC might say. So what Republicans were able to do with their gerrymandering in 2010, they pulled this off for $30 million. That's the cost of a governor's race in Illinois. So for $30 million, they managed to buy themselves control of state legislatures around the country, and then those state legislatures draw the legislative maps and also the congressional maps in their state, and they were able to lock in their own power for a decade for $30 million. It was the biggest heist, perhaps, in the history of modern politics. The Democrats fell asleep at the wheel. We've all been living with the consequences ever since.
Unbelievable. The brilliant Dave Daly. Cannot wait to get him into Chicago so that we can have a book signing here in Chicago for his book, Unrigged: How Americans Are Battling to take back our democracy. You want to get the book Unrigged, and you also want to get rat-effed. I'm going to promote them both. Got to. Blessings to you, Dave Daly. I keep you, but I know he's got to catch a plane, and I want to keep my friendship with my brother beloved. Blessings to you. Sending you all my love and into your beautiful family. We just love Dave Daly. Isn't he brilliant?
Yes.
And he does such great work. I mean, because this is really the key, everybody. Antonin Scalia said in the Bush v. Gore decision that we do not have the explicit right to vote. And you know what? As distasteful, as painful as his decision was, he was right. That's why you need a constitutional amendment to guarantee every American the right to vote. That was something that my brother constructed. He and Frank Watkins wrote that up when he was in Congress. And when Congressman Jackson went through the Constitution, he said there's some explicit rights that we need that we do not have, like education, health, the vote. But first the vote, because as Reverend Frank Watkins, who's been on here countless times, has said, your vote is the right that secures all others. When you don't have the right to vote, you have no voice. That's why we need to get our high school seniors registered to vote right now. Everybody needs to be registered to vote right now. They are deciding elections on 1 vote, 2 votes, 10, a flip of a coin. Come on, everybody. And we can change that as well we ought. Oh boy, here's Chapearl. She's been waiting. Okay, let me take a deep breath. All right, Chapearl, what's going on?
Hey, Santita, thank you so much for taking my call. Listen, I was talking on Facebook, of course, but I was talking about how we have a really big problem, I know, in Cook County because some of the election judges, they have changed the rules. I used to be an election judge, but I did the job as an equipment manager. And now they have proposed that instead of handling 1 precinct, we're going to have to manage at least 3 precincts and get the same pay. So I actually me personally didn't sign up, but we've been foreseeing that they have had a shortage of equipment managers to run the equipment, and they're paying less for doing more work. And so people are actually refusing the job this season, and they are in a desperate situation, I know, definitely in Cook County and in the Chicagoland area for equipment managers and election judges. I mean, it's a one-day job, but you're there 15 hours. You know, we're there before the polls open. We have to set up before the night before, so that way everything will be set up, and it's not going to be a good thing. So I understand that with the amount of people, but also the lack of employees is going to be crucial to what we're going to see in March and November. I think it's going to be a terrible scene. So I encourage everyone to actually get out and vote early, because if you have the time, use it. Don't wait until election day, because if there are problems with the system or if there are problems with your registration, you have time to fix it. Illinois is one of those states where you could actually register, have same-day registration. And so you could actually register to vote the same day of the primary as well as also the national election.
Chaparral, hold on one moment. My question would be to you this: what if Illinois and Wisconsin, because these are the states, these pivotal states that Dave Daly just called, Wisconsin, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia again, California. I mean, this system is not prepared. Illinois is not prepared. Michigan, Iowa, America is not prepared to handle a voting electorate. They are equipped to handle the high propensity voter, the so-called high propensity voter. Who are they? They are the voters who vote in just about every election, if not every election. They're high propensity. But they're not prepared for people who just say, you know what, I'm going to be involved. So a system where we have more than 200 million Americans who are registered to vote. They're not prepared for that, absolutely not. But if 2/3 of those persons vote, 180 million, they said maybe even 190 million, because be very clear, President Trump supporters are excited. They are very, very excited. And people are going to get more turned on as we get closer to the election. What will it look like for you, Chaparral, if you are in that poll and you have something breaks down and people are having to wait an hour, 2 hours?
That's why I think that you also probably need to get the county and the city actual board of elections on, because they need to get prepared. I mean, that's who really is going to make the choices. I mean, we as election judges, we have voiced our concerns about the problems that we see, and they do a survey after each election to get the gauge, but are they really listening? Are they really listening to what's happening? And like the busiest I've seen it, where it was like 24/7, everybody's in line, was Obama 2008. And so if we're expecting more than Obama 2008, we're gonna be in trouble, because we don't have the staff nor the equipment to handle any of that.
I mean, does the equipment work?
Well, in my precinct, I must say that my equipment works, but I also have been trained to repair it. So, you know, the people who are actually training the election judges are very, very thorough. They understand it. But the thing is that I think that they have to begin to value the work that we do. So handling, because right now, like I said, they're expecting us to handle more than one precinct. So it's like, if I have to repair equipment for 3 or more precincts, I'm not going to be on that site.
Well, but first of all, will you have to, but Chaparral, will you have time? Will you have the time to get around in that 12-hour window, or 13 hours, however long we're voting? Will you have the time to go from precinct to precinct? Inevitably, something can go wrong.
That's what I'm saying. You definitely need an equipment manager for each precinct, because that you need to be right there in front of that machine. Because, you know, I manage 3 or 4 machines with printers and then the optical scanner. That's one. So if I have 12 that I have to manage,
Oh my gosh,
and they're at different sites,
That's
you're going to be waiting.
right.
So I think that your next call, Santita, has to be to the Board of Election. Ask them why did they make this change? Why are they putting more when the studies are showing that this is going to be the biggest election turnout?
Well, you know, this is a brilliant idea, and what I'd like to do, we're going to get your number, Chaparral, and what we'd like to do is have you come on, and what we'll do is work with you And since you're an election judge, you're a poll watcher, poll judge. What's your proper title?
Well, my official title is equipment manager.
Okay. Well, what we're gonna do is get a county official, get a state official, and get someone national to participate in a roundtable with you. Okay? Because I think that they put things in place, but I think they put rules and such and structures in place, but they need to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
They need to hear from you. So I'm going to work on that over the next week or so. Okay?
Yes, Santita. And I encourage everyone, lastly before I go, to please tweet, call these Republican senators, and let them know that they're setting us up for a Hitler-like a monarchy. That's what this is tyranny, what they're doing. And I think that we have to, I mean, if I was in Washington, D.C. right now, Santita, I would be on the Capitol raising hell. And that's what we need to do. I think Americans have to stop sitting back and allowing things to happen to us, but we have to get out in the street. Like one thing I do admire about the French, they ain't playing. They go out in the streets, they tear up the place, whatever we have to do to let them know tell the government, you work for me. And Americans have to do the same thing. Yeah. Have a great day and great weekend, Santita.
Mic drop. Love her. You remember that Michael Moore movie in which he talked to the French, I think it was Fahrenheit 9/11.
Right.
And they said, Americans, you all are very interesting for all of your talk about liberty and freedom. In France, the government is afraid of us, but in America, you're afraid of the government. How did that work?
Right.
Got to do better, everybody. We can work it out peacefully, meaningfully, actually. Depends upon what kind of government you want. Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820. Back in just a minute.
Don Kennedy, delays start around Canfield. It's 32 minutes, so O'Hare to downtown.
What?
That's not 26.
No, I'm reading what you
approaching
Vicky said.
Junction.
Vicky.
It's on Eisenhower, delays
I
start
love
at
Vicky.
Manheim. 42 minutes, 390 to downtown. Outbound 32. Inbound Stevenson, 45 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Irvine is 26 minutes, 95th to downtown. I-57, 18 minutes, I-80 to the merge. Bishop 420. We're seeing big jam on the northbound tri-state from 60 town line to 176. A major wreck has 3 right lanes and the exit to 176.
Okay, here you are.
Telemonkey.
Bundle home and auto with Farmers Insurance, and you could save an average of 20%.
Wake up, Chicago. This is the Santita Jackson
Mike
Show.
going hot.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. On WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, we are coming to you live on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. You can like and subscribe there. Please do that. And yes, we can chat with each other. Thank you, Lorraine. We can chat with each other, and in fact, we are. Over on YouTube. It's really helping to grow the show, and it's all because of you and with you. And please meet us on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. The Santita Jackson and Friends page. We even got Paula Yo back. Love you. She said, look, I can't just listen to the radio, everybody. I've got to see you, so you can see us, because we're doing a lot of growing here at WCPT 820. You know, this really is a network, and it's a lot of different stations. And as they're doing construction in the building, they're upgrading the computer system, and so you've not been able to go to WCPT's page to see us, but you can come to our individual pages. So you can come to the Santita Jackson and Friends page and see us as we're streaming live, and hop on over to YouTube and like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show. And so we can carry on and carry a conversation on there, because you know, when more of us join over there, they promote us more, and more of us will be in there. And it's not that you're going to lose the personal touch. I know my morning stars. Come on, I know you all. And we have, those of you in the Chicago area, we have to have a get-together at some point. Now, we already had our Christmas get-together, and several of you showed up, but you gotta come on. You gotta come on. I think Maria always comes, and Lorraine and her husband Mark.
Yeah,
that's right. And we had about 30 or 40 others of you, and Lady B came, and but next time we're gonna have to have Little Bedalia sing.
Yes.
There's another young lady who comes and sings at Push, who's at Berkeley, which is where she's going to be next year. The Berkeley School of Music, one of the most prestigious music conservatories in all the world. Lady B's daughter will be there next year, which is very, 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 very excited about that. So coming up right now, as we've been talking about the voter surge in America, that the American voting system is not prepared for, but they can get prepared. That's the good news. Right. That's the good news. You've got to call your Secretary of State and guarantee that there are enough polling places in your district, and in your city and town, and in your state, and on these college campuses. College presidents should be calling the secretaries of state to ensure that their students will be able to vote. That's what needs to happen. Where my parents met and married at North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, did you know that the campus, Lady B, on the campus contains 3 congressional districts? Oh, okay. It's only 10,000. Well, it's the largest black school, largest HBCU, but they've chopped up the campus in such a way that they are three different congressional districts on one college campus. Now, this is not like Ann Arbor, which is a whole town, the University of Michigan. Okay?
Okay.
This is inside of Greensboro, North Carolina. Gerrymandering, that's what it's called. Okay? So let me get to some of these headlines as we bring up Kevin Gray to find out what's really going on in South Carolina. Because I think what's going on in South Carolina can give you a taste of what's going on all around the country. Right, he's about to open up his barbecue restaurant. Of course, we're going to be going down there, Lady B. We are going, you and I, and a couple of other people. You know, I think we need to figure it out because it would be great. We're going to go down to South Carolina for the primary because we want to see. And Kevin's restaurant, which is really a civil rights museum and a restaurant, is really in the center of it. It's right across the street from the Capitol, and all of the presidential candidates are like within walking distance of his office. So they all, of his office and restaurant, and so they all come over to him because he is really a former head of the ACLU of South Carolina. He was one of the architects, really the architect of Reverend Jackson's presidential campaigns in '84 and '88. And they were so successful, people still model their campaigns upon that one. So everybody's coming to him seeking his endorsement, and he's not given one yet. The impeachment trial. Let's get to some of these. These headlines. Oh boy! Now, Senator Warren, brilliant woman, she put Justice Roberts on the spot yesterday, because you know all the questions from the senators are passed to Justice Roberts, and then he has to ask them. So she asked him a question, and this was it. Supreme Court Justice Roberts, who's presiding over the trial, began this way. The question from Senator Warren is for the House managers. Quote, she wrote, at a time when large majorities of Americans have lost faith in government, does the fact that the Chief Justice is presiding over an impeachment trial in which Republican senators have thus far refused to allow witnesses or evidence contribute to the loss of legitimacy of the Chief Justice, the Supreme Court, and the Constitution? Oh, close quote. I love her. In the meantime, President Trump is rolling along. He is out campaigning. He was in Iowa, and he called his foes deranged. Wow. He said, while we're proudly creating jobs and killing terrorists. Now, I don't know who brags on killing anyone, but okay. He said congressional Democrats are consumed with partisan rage and obsessed with a deranged witch hunt hoax. We're probably having the best years we've ever had in the history of our country, and I just got impeached. Can you believe this, people? I got impeached. They impeached Trump. The best trade deals, the strongest military. I took care of the vets. Oh, he said, no, it's not going to work. Watch, just watch. They want to nullify your ballots. I mean, he's stirring up such negativity. This is not a good thing. And in the meantime, the chances of us Americans seeing a witness are, well, they're diminishing by the moment. A moderate Republican, or at least he's a moderate in this current iteration of the Republican Party, Senator Lamar Alexander from Tennessee, announced on Thursday night, and he was one of the swing senators who people were hoping that would vote to get the witnesses. He said, well, he would not support it. No more additional witnesses. He said President Trump's impeachment trial is shallow, hurried, and wholly partisan. Well, you betcha, to quote Sarah Palin. And he's part of the problem. Oh boy, well they're rushing toward acquittal. But I don't think it's going to end there, Lady B. I really, really don't. I do not believe that. And you know, everybody is worried about the coronavirus, as well we ought to be, because the World Health Organization has declared it a global health emergency. It's in 18 countries, everybody. They said, now we need facts, not fear, but it is a global health emergency. And of course, we had Dr. Margaret Flowers on at the beginning of the week from the Physicians for a National Health Program. She said it's not a global health crisis, it's a global health concern. So they're on the same page with that. In the meantime, our commerce, I can't even get it out, Commerce Secretary, because it's so comical. It would be comical if it didn't just sound so awful. Wilbur Ross said that the coronavirus will be a boost to the American economy.
Mm-hmm.
Is he serious?
Mm-hmm.
He said, I think will help to accelerate the return of jobs to North America. People are dying and it's going to help America. Really? In the meantime, America is telling citizens not to travel to China, and here on the home front here in Chicago, a Chicago woman has infected her husband with the virus. Well, you know, when you are living with someone, that is going to happen, right? So let's not make him, make this family lepers. They need our help, and they certainly deserve and have our prayers. President Trump is doing something very interesting with the U.S. military, and I can't wait to hear from Kevin Gray on this because, you know, he is a veteran. He's an Army vet. The president is preparing to roll back restrictions on the U.S. military use of landmines. Now, you know, I remember, I talk about my grandfather often. Both of them were World War II veterans. And he told me, you know, when they went to the concentration camps, Auschwitz and Dachau and Buchenwald, all of those places, he said they sent black troops in because, A, the black troops would not be mistaken by the survivors for Nazis. If you sent white troops in there, they could have said, well, maybe they are wearing, you know, American uniforms, but they're Nazis. They knew when they saw black troops that those were Americans. Interesting. But the other piece that really aggrieved my grandfather, and this was the last time I saw him alive, he said, you know, but baby, they had landmines all over the camp. So many of us died walking, trying to get in. That's the danger of a landmine. That was one of Princess Diana, or Diana, Princess of Wales' last campaigns, the elimination of landmines. And now he's going to, he's looking at rolling that back. That's a very, very dangerous thing. Amazon, even as their employees are fighting for their rights, it has now become a $1 trillion company, everybody. Britain is leaving the European Union today. Brexit takes effect. How will that work? And there is a young lady, everyone talks about Greta Thunberg, and she deserves our appreciation for all that she's done to make us aware of this climate change crisis. Well, you have Greta's all over the world. And we have a Ugandan activist, a young lady, 23 years of age. There was a picture taken of these youth activists for climate change in Davos. And this young African lady, 23 years of age, she was at the end of the picture. Guess what? She was cropped out. Cropped out of the picture. In the meantime, as we go into our national politics, guess what? Bloomberg is surging past Warren into third place in a new national poll. You know, these billionaires, they're making quite the mark. So, you know, let's talk about it, everybody. And of course, the Bulls will be playing the Brooklyn Nets tonight. Yeah, that's a team that Jay-Z has like 1/100% of, but hey, he's gotten a big profile. I have a lot of friends who actually own a little piece of the Brooklyn Nets, but I didn't realize it was just a teeny weeny piece. And of course, the Blackhawks will be playing the Coyotes tonight. The Dow closed up 124 points yesterday. S&P closed up 10 points. The NASDAQ closed up 23 points. When I came in, when you and I came in, it was snow showers, expecting a high of 31 degrees today. It's really lovely outside. But if I'd known that we had snow showers, I would not be wearing these heel boots today. So don't do that. Get your flights out, everybody, because it's a little slick out there. Okay, everybody, what is going on in South Carolina, and why should we care? Because these first four primaries, New Hampshire, Iowa, first in the nation, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada are really, they are harbingers, many people say, of things to come. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. But they do mean a lot. The first in the nation primary, Iowa, and the second in New Hampshire, they help to set the pace for the rest of the primary. And now Senator Cory Booker and former HUD Secretary Julian Castro, who were in the race up until a few weeks ago, said, you know, this is not right because they're not diverse states. They don't reflect where America is actually and where it's going. So, you know, we need to figure out something else. And Iowa's only been the first in the nation primary since 1976, so it's not like we can't change it. I didn't say 1776, I said 1976. Right. Okay. So we could change this. We could move things around. So, I mean, because I'm all for rotating, or maybe holding them on the same day. Why not? Why not? Because whoever comes out of Iowa, they've got the big mo. They will be declared front runner immediately, unless they're Bernie Sanders, of course. Then New Hampshire, unless they're Bernie Sanders, of course, or Elizabeth Warren, or anyone except Joe Biden will be the only. They can't beat President Trump. I mean, the media's got their narrative. Come on. Don't hate the player, hate the game. 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Let's talk to one of the most brilliant minds in politics and one of the most experienced people, in fact. I'm the author of the book Killing Trayvons, an anthology of American violence, the former president of the ACLU of South Carolina, but more than that, he is now the owner of one of the most fabulous barbecue joints in the United States of America that is also a civil rights museum. We cannot wait to get down there, Kevin. What is the name of your restaurant in Columbia, South Carolina?
Well, if I had been on there about 2 minutes ago when that long train just rolled by, because we're right next to an active railroad track. It's railroad barbecue. It's a train. There's nothing that can be more southern than barbecue and trains and railroad tracks, and living next to a railroad track, which I've done all my life in South Carolina, I swear. I'm sorry. The train was very long, and people take pictures and fuss about the long train, but probably be good for business. I mean, when that train stops those cars.
Aptly named, aptly named. You're the one who gave it the name, and you're the one who went by the railroad tracks.
Well, I grew up next to the Southern Railroad track. I think it was the Crescent Line, and now we're next to Norfolk Southern Line. And most folks don't know the history of railroads. And of course, most lines like Norfolk Southern or the Union Pacific or the Atlantic, all of them had their own tracks and their own stations in the city. So this is the old Norfolk line, Southern line as well. Anyway, just a little bit of history.
Well, no, I think it's important. I mean, it's important for us to know how our goods are distributed around the United States of America. It's the train system. That's we still do that.
And how many black folk live next to a railroad? And back in the day, that's how we got our news. We would get our news out of Chicago from the Chicago Defender by porters, Pullman car porters, who brought those newspapers south.
Wow. It's very important that we know our history. It's very important. And it's important that we know how the country runs, right? So when they start hiring or firing workers, this is what we see. And many of us don't think about the railroad or even say what's happening in China with the coronavirus. It's going to have a tremendous economic impact on trade, on goods that can get in and out of China, and which will make goods more expensive here, I would think, because they'll be harder to secure. There's a lot that goes on with that, but there's a lot that goes on with. We are in 2020, Kevin. We've been talking about it really since 2016, since the night of the election. I remember talking to Kevin the night of the election in 2016, and there's a lot at stake here in 2020. In fact, you are expected. Of course, we broke records in 2018 for the midterms. People were very, very excited, and you turned the red lower house of the House of Representatives. It went from red to blue, but they're expecting 2/3 of the electorate, 2/3 of those who are registered to vote. They're expecting them to vote. More than 180 million Americans are expected to vote, and we're looking at Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada for different reasons to see how white voters are going to go, looking at where black voters are going to go, looking at Nevada, but everybody's really, really, really thinking about South Carolina because there's a real battle for the black vote. Is there not, Kevin?
Oh, yes. Dave Chappelle was here in South Carolina yesterday, which is Thursday and Wednesday. He did a show in Columbia on Wednesday and did one in Charleston yesterday. And he's campaigning for Andrew Yang. So that was a big deal. Because, of course, he had, people came out to see Chappelle. And Tom Stiers has moved into second place in South Carolina. I think that that's at the expense of Bernie Sanders.
So how did he leap over? How did he leap over Bernie Sanders? I mean, please tell me about that.
Money, and campaigning in the black community in a different way than all the other candidates have been campaigning. He has gone beyond the fish fries and the chicken bogs and just the black churches and the colleges, which everybody, that's what they do. They come here, they go to a college, they go to a church, and they go to a Democratic event, and then they go. Stires has been in communities that people don't go. He's hired black press to spread his message via radio and the print media, what's left of it. He's hiring people to go into the rural communities. He's paying them good wages. He's investing in black-owned businesses. I know that $2 million in the community bank, we used probably majority community black depositors, but he put $2 million in the black-owned bank. Running a big ad campaign on the TV, billboards in black neighborhoods. He's just doing things that folk used to do, but just they stopped doing it when it looked like they just had the black vote in their pocket. He is campaigning the old-fashioned way.
But when did they stop doing that, Kevin? Because I know that was one of the things from your experience. He was the head. Everyone should know you were the head of the Jackson campaigns in '84 and '88, and that's when we learned about the business of campaigning, the business of politics, the business of a campaign using a particular bank, using different restaurateurs, renting space in particular neighborhoods. Please explain that.
And that's back on Stires. Stires is renting black venues. Of course, they approached us, and we haven't made a decision as to what we're going to do because a couple of campaigns are wanting to get in here and do events. But paying for the use of a restaurant, paying black caterers. That's what Stires is doing now. If you ask me when did that stop, I would think the second term of Clinton. It was really. And when Obama ran, and no one wants to hear this, Obama had millions of dollars. Obama didn't spend that much money in the black community. He might have spent money with the national syndicated black shows. Of course, everybody supported him. But as far as black media was concerned, Obama didn't spend any money in black media. And if you go back and look at the black newspapers, prior to Obama being elected, they were flourishing. I was a black newspaper editor. For the years that Obama was in office, we used to say top of the fold almost every week. Top of the fold is the top of the newspaper. You fold it and you put it in the box. And, Obama or Michelle were on the cover almost every other week. They did not invest in black media. And if anybody wants to be mad at me and dispute that, they need to go back and look at the numbers. He enriched a whole lot of white advertising companies and advertising buyers, but he didn't do a whole lot for black media, and that's just the bottom line on that. So if you ask me when did it start, I would tell you probably with the second term of Clinton, when Clinton had the black vote pretty much sewn up, and with Obama, it marked the death of a lot of black media.
So how has that impacted? Well, I mean, how has that impacted the influence of black people in the electorate?
Well, I mean, if you're waiting for reporters or whatever to come to you to the black community and ask their opinion, and it's not going to happen that often. If you got active black media, then you got voices and that are out there talking about community efforts and community stuff every day. So it matters that we don't have a strong black media like we did maybe 10, 20 years ago. And when I was editor of the black newspaper, I used to tell our staff, it's our job that on Monday morning or Friday when our paper comes out, that next day, the mainstream, predominantly white papers ought to be following our lead as to what's going on in the black community. And that's where they ought to be getting some clues as to who they ought to be talking to in the black community to find out what the issues are and what the concerns are.
When we get back on the other side of the break, I want to find out from you what the stakes are in South Carolina. What are the issues in South Carolina? And do the issues in South Carolina translate to the rest of the country? Call us at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. And join us on YouTube on The Santita Jackson Show, and like and subscribe. And join us on Santita Jackson and Friends on Facebook. We're also streaming live. You can hear us on TuneIn, that's a wonderful app, and WCPT820.com. We're talking about politics, everybody. We're talking about politics. We're going to get someone from Iowa next week and New Hampshire. And we're going to be talking to someone from Nevada, all in the coming weeks, because we will have those presidential primaries on the Democratic side starting next month. I mean, it's February tomorrow, right, Lady B?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And tomorrow, Lady B is going to be on Ricky Hendon Show. Can't wait to hear from her from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Call her at 773-763-WCPT. She's going to be giving you a lot of great talk. But right now, we are talking about the meaning of South Carolina. What is it going to mean? What is it going to mean? And will Iowa influence South Carolina? Do South Carolinians pay attention to what happens in Iowa and in New Hampshire? Increasingly. I mean, Julian Castro, former Secretary of HUD, he said, he and Senator Cory Booker, as they were running for president, and they're no longer doing that, they said, wait a minute, this does not reflect who we are. Interestingly, a Latino man and a black man said, no, this is not enough. So let's talk about what's happening in South Carolina and in presidential politics. And 2020 WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, on the Santita Jackson Show. YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show. Like and subscribe, and like and share. Like and share. Create some watch parties over on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Back in just a moment. We're going to take your questions, everybody. That's right. I think we have Ike from North Carolina. Wow. And Pam and Mark and everybody else. Love you. Stay right here. More of the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Back in a minute.
WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We'll be talking with you just for a few minutes after we get off the air right here on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. We're growing every day and we thank you for your support as we grow the show. It's been mushrooming. We even had one show that had like, what was it, 26,000 people.
Right.
And it's all because of you, really, really, really. And we thank you for that support. And we are over on the Facebook page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page, as WCPT continues to grow. You've not been able to get WCPT on Facebook, but you will in the coming weeks. In the meantime, join me on Santita Jackson and Friends. And of course, on Sunday from 7 to 9, I'll be on Santita Jackson and Friends and on Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.'s page as we talk about, I don't know what the topic's going to be, but I will. In a couple of hours, we're talking with Kevin Gray. Kevin Gray, the former president of the ACLU of South Carolina, Army veteran. Now he's a restaurateur, Railroad Barbecue in Columbia, South Carolina. We'll be broadcasting from there when we get down there for the primary at the end of February. But he is also the author of Killing Trayvons, an anthology of American violence. He's written for Counterpunch and The Nation, and he's one of the most respected political commentators and really political activists in the country over the past 40 years. And so we're honored to have him with us today as he tells us about South Carolina. South Carolina, I know you wanted me to say 20 years, but it's been 40.
We're talking about mines, and I was an Army engineer, so that was one of the things I did, to put in mines and take out mines.
And he's going to loosen up restrictions so you can have landmines in more places. What do you think about that, very quickly?
I have landmines in war. I don't, that is most of the time, even when you set up your base, you could be a squad, a platoon, a company, a battalion, whatever. People use landmines. In Vietnam, the most known mine was the Claymore mine, which everybody carried one. You set it up in front of your foxhole, or you have anti-tank and anti-personnel mines. People that remember the anti-personnel mines, that when you stepped on them, they didn't go off immediately. They came up out of the ground so that they would explode around your torso. And so, when Princess Diana was alive and doing the campaign against mines, it was because a lot of mines in Southeast Asia that were left by American troops were killing people. And because once you put them in, no one wants to take them out. Unless you got the mapping for them, and you're supposed to chart them and report minefields when you do them. But in the fog of war and people pulling out, a lot of that gets lost.
It's important.
That's one of the reasons I got out the military, because they wanted me to go to Kuwait and possibly remove mines from the beaches, and it's like, oh no.
Wow, Kevin. Well, we've been talking about South Carolina, and because this is why you have to get involved in politics, because politics drives our military to all these installations and wars all over the world. I mean, and we have the power to make decisions about where our military will go. But let me switch back to 2020 and South Carolina. What is the significance of South Carolina? Everybody makes a lot of these first four primaries, because South Carolina wasn't always this early, and so it's been structured so that you have really two big white primaries. I mean, Iowa and New Hampshire have been in place, and then you have South Carolina and Nevada. Explain all of that.
South Carolina is the black primary. 60 to 65% of the primary voters in the Democratic primary are going to be black. The majority of those black voters are going to be black women. And so South Carolina is supposed to be an indicator of what black political thought is, although it's not like it was when we did it in 84 and 88, and we led with issues and pretty much set those issues. Now it is about money, and it is about the national campaign, and people come every 4 years, but they still don't understand they still don't take the time to understand the issues and the concerns of people in the community. They're in and out, and it's all about the horse race instead of what's important to people. But the other part of it is, like, as with your father's campaign, you know, your father won when we did the campaign in '88 with 64% of the vote, and that pretty much catapulted us through Super Tuesday, where we pretty much swept the South. Most people, I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, most people don't know that if Reverend had won Wisconsin, then Reverend would have probably won the nomination.
Well, remember when all of the machines started breaking down in Wisconsin because he won Michigan with 56% of the vote in a 6 or 7 man field. And then after Michigan, when we got to Wisconsin, all of the machines started breaking down. Remember that?
Right. So South Carolina can be an indicator of what's going to happen throughout Super Tuesday and possibly in a lot of the Union states or states that have significant black populations. The problem has been, though, as I said, a lot of people come down, they go to the churches, they go to the colleges, they don't engage the people. They might talk about education, which is important. They might talk about gentrification, which is important. But no one's really offering any solutions. And, you know, they really don't get out and talk to the people that's affected by the issues of inequity in school funding. And gentrification, which is a huge issue right now, especially in the cities. I mean, we're saying it probably needs another word now, cannibalization, where the poor and low-income blacks are being pushed out of the city. There's development going on in all the big cities, but that development doesn't take in the black community. That, you know, our restaurant is one of the few black-led economic development projects in the capital city, with a black mayor and a majority black city council and a majority black county council. And the mayor of this city has endorsed Bloomberg, like a lot of mayors are.
Why Bloomberg and not Steyer? If Steyer is surging to, so what are you telling me, that Steyer is being supported by the people? What's going on with that?
Well, as I said, Steyer's campaign is leading with the message of investment in the community, investment in small businesses, an investment in getting people involved in the economic development in their communities. So, you know, that's a powerful message when, you know, you hear Donald Trump and everybody talk about how great the economy is. You still have to go back and look at the black foreclosure numbers, black home ownership, the wage gap, which is there's a huge race wage gap everywhere. Steyers is talking about those issues. So, you know, I'm not endorsing anybody. You know, I tell people my political heart as a progressive aligns with Sanders. And Santita, I told you when Warren did the thing about Sanders saying he didn't think a woman would win, and I told you I didn't believe that, and it would hurt her, and because a lot of people were leaning toward her before she said that. I don't think her flip-flopping on Medicare for all is what hurt her more than the fact that, you know, you got these so-called two progressives, and with Bernie Sanders, who supported your father in '88, and your father was talking about putting a woman on the ticket. No one believed that.
No, well, let's go back, because he supported him in '84 too. Remember, he was one of 2 white elected officials in the United States. He was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont at the time, and of course, his support of Reverend and his chairmanships of those campaign of the '88 campaign propelled him to the U.S. House of Representatives and into the U.S. Senate, because he had organized in the state.
And Warren hasn't really had a big ground game here in South Carolina at all that I can see. Duval Patrick just started campaigning in the state. He moved into Kamala Harris's old headquarters, which is right down the street from me. And but that remains to be seen what it is that he'll do. I think that he thinks that if there's a black on the ticket, on the slate, come primary time, that it might have we call it the Alvin Green effect. You know, when Alvin Green, this unknown black guy, runs against a white Democratic challenger against Jim DeMint. All of a sudden, this guy comes out of nowhere, Alvin Green, and wins the nomination. So because he's a black guy, white guy, black guy you don't know, white guy you don't know. So people voted for the black guy they didn't know. So I think that with Deval Patrick, I think he's playing a bit of playing a racial gambit, so to speak.
Let me go to these callers. People want to jump in. Ike from North Carolina. Ike, welcome to the show.
Let's try Ike from Charleston, South Carolina. How about that?
I was wondering, because I see North Carolina on my screen, so I'm glad. I love South Carolina. Look, my father was born there. My brother was born there. I'm feeling South Carolina. Sending you much love.
Yeah, well, just off the rip, I'll just tell you, I'm committed to Steyer. And the reason being is because most people don't know his background and the activism that he has put his money where his mouth is. From California all the way across this country, he had as much to do with the flood of the midterm young voters as anybody did. He spent a lot of money, and he continues to spend a lot of money. And whether we like it or not, money is the deal. Until we get this system changed around, we go to public funding, or we find another solution for it, we're going to have billionaires doing battle with billionaires. And, there's no shame in that. I will chastise the Democratic Party because they're about 30 years behind when it comes to media. They suck, to put it bluntly. They talked about that new media center that they built in D.C., and all I remember when they opened it, this is going to give us real-time, production values and real-time response and blah, 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 blah. And what did they do? They didn't do anything with it. They are the worst when it comes to media. And you look at the other side at what they built since Reagan loosened the restrictions on telling the truth on the airways. You look at all the think tanks the billionaires have set up to where they get their messages out, and the way they flooded media with flat-out lies and the crap and the brainwashing, Fox News and Breitbart and the rest of it. Well, you know what? Yeah, we need the people like Steyers. We need Bloomberg. And we need a Democratic Party that's going to wake up one of these days and realize until you do battle with talk radio and until you get underneath the skin of this mess and get our people to put our money or put the money into the media, much like CPT. Thank God for CPT. Why do you think I'm sitting in South Carolina listening to CPT? Because they're progressive. I can't get it anywhere else. Okay? I mean, the internet's helped somewhat. Don't get me wrong. Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, we do have a little bit going on. But it's hodgepodge. These people on the other side have been well organized and have done this from the beginning the same way that they had a thing on the books, this thing where they're taking over the judiciary. They planned that 20 years ago. They worked towards their goals. They set a goal and they worked towards it. But I'm telling you now, as far as these candidates go, I'm set for Tom Steyer in the primary. That's who I'm going to vote for. I like the guy. I've done my research. I understand it. I don't have a problem with Mr. Bloomberg, and I don't have a problem with whoever it turns out that wins this primary. I'll vote for whoever's blue. I'm not going to allow this garbage to go on. But here's the message to the Democratic Party, and the National Committee better get their heads out of their butt. You need to start putting your money into this media and fighting this media. And one place you need to quit ignoring for sure, absolutely, is AM talk radio. Because that's the poison they're pumping into these cars. And I have a theory, that's why they don't want to fix the roads. The longer you keep these rubes in their cars, the longer they listen to this crap.
Look, I'm not mad at you. There are more than 2,500 talk radio stations around the country. Only 5 or 6 are progressive. So tell your friends about Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, and make it go viral, please. And we thank you for your support. I tell everybody in South Carolina about us. Tell everybody about us because we've got a full lineup of progressive radio all day, and it's a small network of us. But you know what? We're the majority. So please, grow us, please. And let me go to Pam. Pam from Chicago. What's on your mind, Pam?
Good morning, Santita, and good morning, Mr. Kevin Gray.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say, I guess, well, I'm going to support whomever the Democratic candidate is. Certainly, I have my preferences. And Mr. Gray, I wanted to let you know I'm not going to leave you hanging out there by yourself. You're absolutely correct. President Obama and that campaign did not spend nearly enough money with the black community. Santita, I vividly remember political operatives, particularly those close to the ground. There was, I guess, some edict from Obama's campaign that he wasn't going to spend what they call street money. And Mr. Gray and Santita, you all know what that is, that he wasn't going to be issuing any street money. And I just thought that was very peculiar for him to say. And for our candidate...
Now, are we sure he said that?
Well, the sources that it came from, no money flowed to the street operatives.
Well, now that's true. That's true. I mean, we've talked about that, yeah.
Sure. So no money flowed to the street operatives. So I feel pretty safe in saying that was true. Now, I wanted to ask Mr. Gray, because I'm hearing Vice President Biden state that, well, I'm the only candidate that can help the down ballot, I think, candidate. And so it almost seems like that's a fear tactic. So would you please comment on what that means? And I doubt very seriously if he's the only person to do that. And I'm open to any candidate who is going to do something significant, Santita, in the black community. And here's people what we need what every other ethnic community needs. We need not only economic development, but we need venture capitalist money. Because I'm hearing that. So, let's be real about what the investment is in the black community. And it's not just giving money to a lot of business people who have other ethnic groups who have businesses in the community.
Kevin, I think that Pam has hit on something, because that was something that we began to understand when Reverend ran in '84 and '88, right? That the business of politics, yes.
Well, both callers have. I should just say ditto. Well, I'm not a ditto head, but I should just say, they're absolutely correct in what's happening with Stiers. With Biden, Biden is operating on the fact that he was Obama's vice president. And a lot of yellow dog, old school Democrats are sticking with Biden because of that. But when you look at Biden's race record throughout his career, it's horrible. And he doesn't have much of a presence in South Carolina, let's say like Bernie Sanders or Tom Steyer. His office is right up the street. But he's not really campaigning other than he was Obama's vice president, and of course he has the national media who are running this narrative. Well, Trump is afraid of him because he's the only person that can beat Trump. I don't necessarily believe that. And when you go back and look at the history of moderate Democrats from Hubert Humphrey to Walter Mondale to Al Gore to John Kerry to Mike Dukakis to Hillary Clinton, although Hillary did win the popular votes, to say that a moderate candidate is the only person that can beat Donald Trump. Well, moderate candidates in the Democratic Party have had a history of losing. The candidates that have won, like Bill Clinton or Barack Obama and Jimmy Carter, well, they had huge black support. And to a degree, they had huge numbers of young people come to the polls. I don't think that you'll have that with Biden. No matter how much the national media, when they talk about who's leading in the polls, they'll mention Sanders, but they'll show the pictures of everybody except Sanders. I was watching CNN today when they were talking about what was going on in Iowa and that Sanders was leading in Iowa, but they showed Buttigieg, Warren, Biden, and Klobuchar, and didn't put Sanders' face on the TV. And that's the game they've been playing, and that turns people off. It's not just the right that gets frustrated with the mainstream media. It's progressives when all of a sudden you have this array of former prosecutors or former intelligence officials, and you're supposed to trust them. That's the problem that the national media and the Democratic Party have right now. If that's the leadership that they're foisting on us.
All right, let's get some of these callers in because I want people to. I couldn't have said it better myself. Melvin from Chicago. Melvin, what's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Santita?
Great hearing your voice, Melvin.
Nice hearing your voice too. I agree with that caller from South Carolina about getting out to vote, about registering people to vote, about the Democrats. And the Democrats are always behind time. They're always lagging behind. I don't care how many years it's been. Even when Obama was president, if it wasn't for Obama being the president and being reelected, they would lag behind again because everybody got too many. These Democrats got too many irons in the fire, and then when it comes to all 3 or 4 years that each cycle goes, they don't do anything but they're not serious about it. They didn't go to the radio stations like during the Harold Washington days. They didn't go to the people. They did what they wanted to do, but when it was time for business and take care of business and voting, they was on these radio stations. I don't care what they were. I don't care how many radio stations they were. They were on the radio stations getting themselves together, getting that money out. These Democrats these days, they're not too serious. All they want to do is make a name for some of them that want to make a name for themselves, and some of them, like Trump. Trump could have been out of there, and they could have found something else about on Trump. But some of them are scared, and then you got these war people that's been around for years, like Biden and Sanders. Not saying that's bad about them, but hey, you got these young guys that made me so mad that Cory Booker and Kamala Harris got kicked out because they didn't have enough money or they didn't have enough polling. They wanted somebody like a Bloomberg and fire, like that other caller said.
Well, you know what, Melvin, I hate to interrupt you. I've got a couple of minutes. I want Kevin Gray to respond to you and to close us out. Kevin, we've got about a minute and a half, and they're yours. Stay right there, Mr. Melvin.
Okay.
I think everybody is pretty much echoing the same thing, that the Democrats need to get their game plan together and their long game together. The comment that the caller made about the judges and what's happening to the judiciary, where the Republicans have played the long game in changing the face and the nature of the courts across the country. And what are the Democrats doing? Or this idea of cultivating leadership. You can't cultivate leadership if every time an election comes up, it's the same old person over and over, like it's next person up, it's my turn, instead of it being the people's turn. And you have to invest in the communities during elections and after elections. And we have to hold the people that we put in office accountable for providing for the community, for responding to their needs. For me, in Columbia, South Carolina, I've been saying to candidates, go beyond the colleges, go to the communities, ride around the city, see where the development is happening and where it's not happening. And then you'll get people support when you start talking about making changes in those still impoverished communities around the country. And the other thing that people are doing, I said, gentrification is a big thing, but as I said, I think we ought to start calling it cannibalization, because it's driving poor people out of the city. They're not ever going to be able to afford to come back into the cities the way things are going now. And that's only going to further exacerbate the wealth gap in our communities.
Well, everybody, just keep the conversation going. We are on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. Like and subscribe. And we are on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Kevin, can you stay with me a couple more minutes? I wanted you to speak with Mark and close out and give us other things that we need to look for, particularly with impeachment. Can you stay with me about 5 more minutes?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I heard that note, that sound of resignation.
It's good. It's okay. No,
He just said, okay, I'll do it. Stay right there. Stay right there. Everybody, you know I love you. Check out Lady B. She's going to be filling in for Ricky Hendon tomorrow afternoon at WCPT 824 to 6. And, of course, I'll be at Rainbow Push. We're going to be back at Rainbow Push at 930 East 50th Street this Saturday. That is tomorrow. So join us over there at 9:30, 10 o'clock. We are up on the air on rainbowpush.org and on the Reverend Jesse Jackson Senior's page. And, of course, Keep Up Alive on Sunday. Get your iHeart app. Get your iHeart app so that you can hear us live on Real Talk 910 and on Patriot 1150 AM and on the Santita Jackson and Friends page and on the Reverend Jesse Jackson Senior page. Oh, boy. Okay, so I think we've got all of that out the way. It's been a great week. And, hey, everybody, check out the podcast on WCPT820.com /Santita so you can hear all of the shows without the commercials. On behalf of me and Lady B and Mateo and Cortez, and Zoe's on the other side, right? Or is Nikos on the other side? Zoe. Everybody and all of the family here at WCPT 820. I'm Santita Jackson. Can't wait to be with you next week here on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless you, everybody, and sending you much love and many blessings. Mwah.
Okay, he's on.
Okay, Kevin Gray?
Yeah, turn on your mic.
Oh, I thought, okay. Kevin Gray? Hey, Kevin, get back to the phone, Kevin. He's probably at the barbecue pit.
Oh, maybe.
Okay, he said, hi, hello. Yes, Kevin. We've got Mark here from Bronzeville. Mark, how you doing? Mark, we're gonna get pitched out of the studio very quickly. So I want to hear what your comment is. I want Kevin to weigh in, and then we're gonna keep it moving. How about that, Mark? What's on your mind today?
That works fine with me. Well, first thing is that the party selection process has got to.
Hold on, Mark. Stay right there 1 second. We're gonna pot you up just a little bit higher, okay?
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Okay, go for it.
The party selection process of a nominee has got to be more diverse and got to hit more of who the party's base really is. Well, I mean, to try to get I totally agree with Dr. Gray. I hope he comes to push and bring some of his barbecue for the conference this year. But I think that there's got to be a process that understands that that the Democratic Party elective or constituency is much broader than the complexions of Iowa or New Hampshire, and is more even diverse when you swing south. And I think until and unless they come to grips with that, this process will always somewhat be a second guess. And let me just say this: my thing with Steyer was when he came out for term limit, I was through. He lost me there, never to come back. But and I don't really, I was supporting Harris. So I don't really know where I'm going right now. I'm believe it or not, in the stage, in the place of being undecided. But and Peter Judge, I think the issue there is that the reason he's not catching in South Carolina is because there's an underground, unspoken, bubbling just beneath the surface regarding him and LGBTQ people of color. Not just people of color, but LGBTQ people of color.
And who is this? Who is it? Who?
Peter Judge.
How is he doing with LGBTQ plus people of color?
Not well, because the community has not, because when he gets criticized for having these fancy fundraisers, that's how the mainstream LGBTQ community has divided itself. Like, I'm going to this gala tomorrow night, and this is like $300 a ticket, but and the division is that does not hit primarily LGBTQ people of color. So if the community itself were to be more loyal and more responsive to communities of color, then he could have an amazing campaign. But right now, it's just still the same division with them creating a culture that is as divisive as the mainstream culture between the haves and have-nots.
Well, hold on, Mark. I want Kevin to jump in here because I know, Mark, you have been quite vocal about having supported Kamala Harris, and she suspended her campaign. She was no longer campaigning for president, but many people are saying that she could end up on the ticket. Cory Booker has suspended it, which pretty much ends your campaign during the campaign cycle. But and then people have lamented the fact that you don't have black people specifically or Latinos on the stage. But Kevin, and while we want we want diversity. There's a reason. I mean, you've got DeVal Patrick who's running. He's a black man. I mean, but is that enough? Because it seems to me that as much as I like Kamala Harris, she didn't catch fire with black people. I mean, as much as I like Cory Booker, he didn't catch fire with black people. And the fact is, you got to catch fire with black people. And I'm seeing, a very interesting. I was reading an article about President Obama's campaign from the New York Times, and they were saying that Obama really had black support, and they felt that it was unfair for them to say that he got black support after he got white support. But that's pretty much true, because the person who had the black support in late 2007 going into 2008 until he won Iowa was Hillary Clinton. He did not have, the masses of black people. Or am I reading it incorrectly?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And the other part of it is, first of all, black folks will do take their cues from white people. So, I mean, that is a given. Folk might try to deny it, but that's a given. The other part of it is that, to some extent, Obama was a known quantity in the community, although people were with the Clintons. But, just historically, from Bill Clinton, the so-called first black president. But there was a familiarity with Obama going into it because of his campaigning in these states prior to the primary, in between primaries, that Kamala Harris and Cory Booker didn't have. To have the networks and the connections to people in a state, people that people know. I wasn't a big Obama man. I tell people I'm a Jesse Jackson progressive. And someone asked me, what does that mean? And somebody asked me that just the other day, and I had to explain it and go down the list of issues that we supported that you don't see the Democratic Party supporting, even to this day, as an entity. But, and then Kamala being a former prosecutor, I think, and that hurts her in the same way that Cory Booker and his relationships to Wall Street, although Obama had the same relationships, I think that hurt him a lot. But most of the time, you run the first time, even if you lose, or even if you have to pull out to become known, you run for the future. And I think a lot of what Kamala Harris and Cory Booker did, Andrew Yang and the rest of them, they're running for the future. They're not necessarily running. If they should win and be in it, for them, that's the same as with Obama. That would be spectacular, but for lack of a better word. But for the most part, I think we're going to see I actually think we're going to see a more progressive candidate win the nomination. I mean, people keep writing off Bernie Sanders, and I haven't been a big Bernie Sanders fan either. But the truth of the matter is, when you look at the numbers, or the fact of the matter is that Bernie Sanders has a chance of winning. The people want something different, like they wanted something different with Trump. I think people underestimate the fact that a vote for Trump was a vote for change, especially if you consider many of the people that voted for Obama voted for change, and then they turned around and voted for Trump because they voted for change. They're unhappy with politics as it is. They're unhappy with the elitism that they see from the national media, and they're voting against that. And you see what we get.
And you know what I would say? That's irrespective of the person. I mean, and the thing is, it really is about the people and our needs. People cannot afford to go to the emergency room. People are sharing meds. People are taking animal grade insulin today. Folks have some real problems, and it's not going to be solved. They're very clear just by having a black person on the stage, or just by having a woman on the stage. The question is, you know, Ossie Davis, the great actor who made his transition some years ago, but of course we all remember and love, or we should know, and then remember and love Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee. No two actors of their stature were more involved in the civil rights movement and represent more to us, not just as black people, but as people. The brilliant artists were together for decades as a married couple, had a wonderful family. He was the speaker at the first Black Caucus dinner, Kevin and Mark. And part of his speech, he said, it's not the man, it's the plan. And the thing is, if you don't come up with, as a woman or as a man, with the right plan, you don't deserve my vote. Period. To me, it is not. Huh?
That, you know, you've been touching on a lot of things that are really personal, because when I went to graduate school, I got a Davis Putter Scholarship, and Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee were on the board of the Davis Putter Scholarship Fund that gave grant money to graduate students of color to get their graduate degrees. That's the kind and so who does that these days?
Well, you know, the Cosbys have been doing it. I mean, because that was what Bill and Camille Cosby were sending kids to school in the 60s. They invested more than $20 million at one time at Spelman College. They put the state-of-the-art building on the Spelman College campus, which completely reset what black people started giving to HBCUs. At the height of Bill Cosby's fame, he sent 2 of his children to black schools. I just have to say that, you know.
Happening now, a lot of folks who go into politics and become enriched or who become famous, even when they do something for people, supposedly, it's all about them. It's not about the people. It's about burnishing their names. It's not about the people. But now we back on Pete Buttigieg. You know, I don't know a lot about him except what I read. I have met him on the campaign trail, but what I've read about his time as mayor and his relationship with the black community is like the relationship that a lot of mayors have with the black community. They deal with them either through the police, and that's on a negative, through enforcement. It's all about pushing people out of the cities right now, and I see his record no different than the record of the black mayor we have here in Columbia, who supports Bloomberg. And you know, no question, there's been a lot of progress in Columbia. Columbia is growing, like a lot of other cities in the South are growing, but it's not growing in communities of color. That's not where development is focused. Public housing is disappearing, but it's not being replaced. So poor people are being either shoved to places that they're going to be shoved out as soon as development gets to them, or they're being scattered. But there's no emphasis on the poor and on the lower income people, or on working class people. Who talks about working class issues other than, you know, the people that appeal to working class voters in America these days are Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. And that's just the reality. As much as Trump, you know, to me he's a vile guy. You know, this idea that you're going to impeach him for trying to use another country to influence an election. Well, a lot of us look at America. Well, how many wars have we gotten into to influence what a country was going to do and sell, or who was going to lead that country? I mean, I think they call it a regime change. And we can go down the history of America's involvement via the military or via the State Department or via the CIA in influencing what a government does and assassinating people. Let's just be real about that. And so a lot of people aren't as tuned into the impeachment hearings as the network would tell you. I mean, you watch it on and off, but you're certainly not sitting there watching it and waiting for the next shoe to drop. Because it's a whole lot of hypocrisy.
And at the end of the day, that is what people are tired of. I mean, people really don't care about, when they opened up the primaries in 2016, Kevin and Mark, you saw people crossing party lines to vote for Trump or to vote for Trump. Bernie or Trump, that's where they were, because they were looking for change. That's what they were looking for with President Obama. Now, they cloaked him. They cloaked him with the values of being a progressive, but he's a moderate, and I think that's been part of the challenge with his legacy going forward. I mean, I don't care what he has in his heart. I'm talking about how he governed and really how he voted even as a state legislator. And I think that's a lesson that we have to learn going forward. I mean, I'm not into slamming anyone. I'm just into telling truth. And when I was on the radio on another station in 2008, when I said that people thought I was hating, I said I'm not hating. But remember, this is not a date, this is a destination. You need to find out in politics. You got to ask questions. And we have got to ask questions of people who are running right now. I don't care who they are. Look, the easy girl loses in the courtship game, okay? Do not give it away. It's not about that. Look.
Yeah, elections are not about change. It's about maintaining the status quo.
Right.
A lot of people see that.
And it is about the distribution of resources. So when we're talking about gentrification, when we're talking about prison gerrymandering, where they make congressional districts whole cloth out of a prison with prisoners who cannot even vote, but all the people around them get a chance to use them as a congressional district, and you got several people in Congress right now who are products of that, who don't even represent the interests of the people who counted as citizens in their district. Look, let's put on our thinking cane set. We're going to have to go in a hot second. Mark, I'm going to have to give you a closing thought, and then I'm going to have to toss it to Kevin.
Okay. Also, along those lines, just keep in mind that where those prisons are, those communities are getting more money based on the census, and it's not going to where the communities that those folks come out of. And that's where it really needs to be. But I think you really, you hit the nail on the head when you said we've got to remember this is not a date, it's a destination. And I think that in evaluating who is not a personality issue for me, it's how can I get to where I want everyone, I want all of us to be able to do better and to live well. Which candidate puts that forward? And at this point, I'm still trying to figure it out, so.
And that's fine. Just ask questions. And you're politically quite astute, Mark. Ask questions. And if people are not discussing your issues, if they're not offering answers that will be helpful to you, then you know what you need to do? Not vote for them. Okay? That's what you do. Wait. You need to earn my vote. I told you now this is like a date. You got to earn my love. What is this? No, I'm just trying to break it down for everybody. Okay? So earn my love. That's right. And hey, look, let me look. It sounds like a song, and let me tell you what Kevin said. Kevin, you said it sounds like a song.
Yeah.
No, look, you know what? You all both know my mother, and my mother and father have been married 60 years almost. And there is not a stronger human being that I know than my mother. My father will tell you the strongest, smartest, goodest, best person he knows is his wife, Mrs. He said she's a good woman, and he said, and I found a very good thing on that campus at the beginning of 1962 in North Carolina, in North Carolina A&T. And my mother says, no, you have to set the bar high. have your requirements. Both of them have said, my mother and father said you have to have an insult level. When people don't support you, you cannot support them. When candidates come into your community and they are not advertising in your newspapers, your community newspapers, your black newspapers, your ethnic newspapers, your radio, your TV stations, if you own them, you have to ixnay.
Yeah.
Kevin, what you say?
You have to have an insult level. You know what? How many times have I heard your father say that? You have to have an insult level. Did you get that from your mama?
Of course. But they get those things from each other. They're very much, my parents, they're very much alike. They're very, very much in sync. And and that's all I'm saying to those of us who are listening, who are watching. Have an insult level and have a demand. Have an ask. And you know what? Because I'm anxious to see President Obama and Mrs. Obama get involved in this campaign, not endorsing candidates, but demanding that these candidates, all of them, invest in community media. Make this thing fair. Make it fair. Make it right. Otherwise, people are going to leave the parties. Because they're already leaving them. People are tired. People are tired, and people have some real needs that these candidates need to answer. They need to. Kevin, I want you to have the final word before we go. I love you, Mark. But I love Kevin also. Remember, he's behind the comma. Ow.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll let you know how it goes down here when the candidates come through, because as I said, a couple of campaigns are now, I don't know what, and some of them like, well, we want you to speak. I said, well, you can rent the space, but you can't rent me.
Now you sound like you've been with Reverend a long time.
Rent the space, but you can't rent me. And I don't know if I'm going to participate in the Democratic primary. I'm leaning. I said, I did, starting out this process, I did hope that a woman would come out on the top at the end of it, because I do think that the country, the country needs that kind of change, and I think women, a progressive woman candidate, a progressive male candidate would bring that kind of change we need.
Hold on before you go. I don't want you to leave yet, because Richard Marks has really been all over our YouTube feed, and he has a couple of questions for you, Kevin, and you are such a tremendous historian. Thank you so much, Cortez. You're such a tremendous historian. I want you to speak to a couple of things. First thing he said was Hubert Humphrey, was he a moderate? Then he questioned Democrats who support Bloomberg. Remember Stop and Frisk? Look, I've been a New Yorker. I know what Stop and Frisk did. I mean, in black men of every income level, if you were just a black man, duck, goose, you were tagged. And it made life just, well, whenever you get stopped by the police, that's death sentence, honey. That can happen. And it does happen too often. It does. And and he followed it up by saying, if a white Southern mayor in the 60s did that is, supported Stop and Frisk, Northern Dems would have called him out. Bloomberg did it and got a pass. Talk to us.
Well, obviously, look, Stop and Frisk is so. I just did a book, I think 4 or 5 years ago, Killing Trayvons. So you can't disconnect the whole, and Killing Trayvons plural. You can't disconnect the deaths of people of color in this country. The Trayvon Martins, the list is just long. From you can't disconnect that from Stop and Frisk, and I don't care how many apologies he gives.
Well, and they relate apologies. Now, look, I'm not mad at anybody. I've got several friends who support him. Well, I don't do my politics personally that way, but I mean, what should be our approach in your estimation? Because you know what, the reason I'm asking this of you, Kevin, is because as a manager of a major presidential campaign, you understand the negotiations that take place throughout the campaign, moving through the primary season, moving into the convention season, and beyond. The constant negotiations that happen over platform, over what the party's going to stand for, and what you push for once they get into office, should they win.
Wasn't Bloomberg a Republican? I thought he was a Republican.
Well, he's been all of those things. These guys are on the flexi plan.
Right. So listen,
HSN,
most
QVC.
of the folks that are supporting Bloomberg, I live in a city that's 50-50 black, and I would look at Steve Benjamin, the mayor here, and I would say to his face, it's all about him and what he's going to do. If Hillary Clinton had gotten elected, we were all hoping she would put him in the cabinet, and at least we would try to start talking about economic development in a different way, in a more inclusive way. And so with him and Bloomberg, it's all about the Benjamins. And but now to answer the question about Hubert Humphrey, tell my brother he should merely go back and research Fannie Lou Hamer if he wants to know what Hubert Humphrey was, and the 1964 Democratic Convention and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and then that will tell you a lot about what Hubert Humphrey was about.
Well, just very quickly, give it to us, because we can also go back to his convention speech in 1948, right?
It was all about blocking black representation out of the South, and Hubert Humphrey led that challenge for Lyndon Johnson. And I like Hubert Humphrey as a political figure, as a moderate political figure. That's what he was. And when I was growing up, and the Democratic Party was all I knew, Hubert Humphrey's name was big. And I remember, I think it was your father who once told me the Muriel Humphrey quote, which I heard somebody use when he was making his last speech before a Democratic audience, where Muriel said, "Now, Hubert, you don't have to be eternal to be immortal." And I've always kept that with me because, sometimes less is best. So, so I'll give him that. But as far as his politics are concerned, and you're talking about the politics of the 60s, and no question, if you talk about presidents who made an impact on the racial aspect of our politics and our lives, set aside Vietnam, Lyndon Johnson was racially was a good president as far as the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. You have to give him credit for that. The presidents that have had the most impact racially in this country have been Lyndon Johnson, probably FDR, and of course Abraham Lincoln. Other than that, structurally and systemically, folks don't like to hear it. Obama was a Wall Street president, and when you look at economically, what's going on with black folk with the foreclosure rate and development, well, it just wasn't happening for us during the Obama years. It was a setback. We do have to rebuild it. We dismantled all our community organizations. We dismantled our political safety net during the years that Obama was in office. And no question, stylistically, he's better than Trump. He has a lovely family. But structurally, the 8 years with Obama hurt us moving forward. And people need to come to grips with that. I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just looking at politics as it is and what we have to rebuild. You look at the NAACP isn't as strong as it was. The Urban League isn't as strong as it was. All these people signed up and followed behind and was very supportive of Obama, no question. But when you look at what's happened to community organizations, we talked about the black press, decimated those organizations and institutions, and that's what we have to rebuild.
Well, and I think it's one of the things, and that's no knock on the Obama presidency, because I think that we needed it, and it certainly was a tremendous moment in time. But what we have to walk away from all of that learning, right? Learning what we did well, learning what we did not so well. And one of the things that we've got to do is, no matter, even if there's a black face in the high place, it will not help you unless they come through for you. And you've got to push lovingly, respectfully, and make them do that. And I think you should push lovingly and respectfully with Donald Trump. I mean, I don't want to disrespect anybody because I don't want to be disrespected and I don't want anyone I love to be disrespected. So why don't we just stop with the disrespect already? Let's just stop that.
Folk now, as I said, there are people that support Donald Trump because they don't like people that don't look like them.
Yeah.
But in going into business and dealing with the folk who I've had to deal with, the vendors, the tradesmen, you're going to deal with a lot of Donald Trump supporters or people that support change, and they do it through Trump. So if you just come off on them, you're a racist. You're with Trump. I'm not going to do business with you. Then you won't be doing much business.
Yeah.
I'm in South Carolina. You will not be doing much business. We've Confederate flag for years. Now sometimes you got to fight. A lot of times you got to fight, but sometimes you got to listen, and you have to listen to the people that you think are your enemy, or who may be your enemy.
That's right, and be clear on who your enemy is, because sometimes they are looking just like you and sitting right next to you and eating from your plate. So you know what, everybody, let's get on over that and start asking the right questions and just engage in advocacy, period, for yourself, period. And you need to look, if you have a partner, husband, or wife, guess what? You have requirements of them in order for the relationship to go forward. If they slip, and not just slip, if they slide, not just slide, if they stop coming through for you, you don't have a problem. And you should have a problem, because we have relationships based upon agreements. That's all it is. Whether it's an intimate relationship, an institutional relationship, platonic, romantic, whatever it is, you have requirements, and that's what you need to have. Don't get played in politics, period. And stop letting these people smile and dance with you and play with you. They must come through for you. You must have Michael Bloomberg answer some real questions about what he's going to do to undo the damage of stop and frisk. And you can still endorse him, but you need to have requirements of him. You need to ask Elizabeth Warren about how are we going to deal with student loan debt, period. How, please, and what is your health care plan? Before I endorse you or while I'm endorsing you, I need you to fine tune this. Bernie, how do you really, I know racism is a form of classism, but racism is particularly problematic for me as a black person, particularly as a black person, and for my black sons and daughters who go outside, because you know what? They got Trayvon and they got Sandra Bland. So black women are not safe either. So I just want to know, 100 years later, now that all women have the right to vote, 38 states have ratified the ERA. Technically, it should now become an amendment to the Constitution. What's the holdup? You need to ask every candidate that. Every candidate who's active, every candidate who's been suspended, you need to ask them all, what are you going to do to make sure that the ERA is part of the Constitution? That's all I'm saying. Because it takes black women 8 months to make what a white man has made 8 months before. It takes it to August 22nd of any year to make what a white man of similar skills has made by December 31st of the previous year. We lose $880,000 on average in dollars and wages. What does that do to me for retirement? That means I can never retire. So no, I want all of these candidates, Democrats and Republicans, to talk to me, because no matter who goes into office, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, they represent you. And that's what you need to look at. Let us grow up, everybody, in our politics. Stop demonizing Trump. You need to deal with Trump and have him come through for you, period. And I say that as an independent Democrat. Because I'm very clear. I'm not going to call his name. He's number 45. I hear you. Well, he's the president of the United States, sweetheart. And that's not going to change until you change it in November. And it might not change until November of 2024. So stop getting so upset about this. Stop personalizing this. This is not personal. He's been a Democrat too. Bloomberg has been a Democrat and Republican. In fact, Robert Strauss, you remember this, Kevin Gray. Robert Strauss was, back in the 70s, he had been the head of the Democratic and Republican parties. These people are party agnostic, but they are power and power principled. That is all it is. Janet Jackson talked about the pleasure principle. They deal in the power principle. And they use any power by any means necessary to make it happen. Now, what are we going to do? Mic drop on that. Kevin, the final word comes to you.
What can you say after that? You have a lovely weekend, and all power to the people.
Oh, okay, red, black, and green. I love you. with his dashiki on. I love you. I love you, Kevin Gray. And of course, I'll see you on Keep Hope Alive on Sunday. I know he said, "Oh no, oh no."
I'll talk to you later today, and I'll see you on. I'll talk on Sunday.
I'll talk to you later today. All right, everybody. You know I love you so much. It has been great. It's always great being with you, and please keep in touch with me. And I thank you for supporting us over on YouTube. We're working, and I thank you for working with us as we work through all of the challenges of really coordinating all of these different streams we'll be up on Twitch, which is new. Many of us don't even know what Twitch is, but we will. And so I want to thank you all for being with us and for working everything and for staying with us as we work all of this stuff through. So please join me on the Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson radio show on Sunday. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. It's going to be something good. Reverend Jesse Jackson Senior page on Facebook. We will be streaming live, and we're on rainbowpush.org throughout the week. And on tomorrow, rainbowpush.org, as we are on the Saturday morning forum. It's really from 10 to 11 Central Standard Time. And yes?
Look here and see.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm looking over here, but I should be looking over there. Thank you. But and just direct me. Just say, go here. And so I want to thank all of you for all that you do, for all of the support that you have given us. It means so much. It means so much. And that's all I can really say. So join us on tomorrow on the Reverend Jesse Jackson Senior page as we do the Rainbow Push Saturday morning forum. You don't want to miss that. Great message, great inspiration, great information. Reverend Jesse Jackson's nationally syndicated radio show, Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson, from 7 to 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. So join us over there. So many of you do. I appreciate that. And we stream live on Reverend Jackson's page, and we are also on the iHeart app. Go to, if you want to listen to us live, we're on scores of stations all around the country, but go to Real Talk 910 on the iHeart app, Real Talk 910. It's really the progressive station out in California, up in San Francisco. Real Talk 910 and Patriot AM, Patriot AM 1150 to the south. That is a conservative station that serves Orange County into Los Angeles. What can I tell you? We've got it all covered, and it streams us out all over the country and all over the world. I love you, everybody. It has been a great week on the Santita Jackson Show. Please join Lady B. She'll be hosting on Ricky Hendon Show from 4 to 6 Central Standard Time tomorrow. Give her your support. She really does need it and deserves it. I love you, everybody. I will see you on tomorrow and on Sunday. Love